For those that don't know me, I'm Laura. I'm Fraser. I am the co-founder, managing director of FT Executive. Thanks for that so much for that, Steve. So my portion is around behavioural adaptability when it comes to talent. For those who don't know myself and Brendan and FT Executive, we're a new brand at heart, but we've been doing this a long, long time. I've worked in executive recruitment in Melbourne, Victoria for just over the last 7 years. My focus has always been on business transformation and helping our businesses grow and transform, and that sits across people, process and technology change. I run the executive search arm of our business, and Brendan runs our CX, customer success consultancy arm, and we also have a training partnership arm of our business, and Steve and the team and Dr. Roger and the likes, we've had great partnerships over the years, and I know their Lean Six Sigma course a lot of my candidates have done and has helped them in their careers, so I highly recommend any of their courses to anybody that's interested in developing a bit further. But you can check us out online as well. So the agenda today is, behavioural adaptability, and when it comes into play with talent, with a focus on unconscious bias and diversity and inclusion. Now, these are huge topics, as we know, and often when we hear about diversity and inclusion, it needs to be an enterprise-wide initiative, driven by the CEO, senior business leaders, and HR. Though today, everybody that's joined us as a hiring manager or an individual who is helping businesses drive change, I'm a firm believer we can be part of the solution and not the problem. So I guess today my talk is very much to give you small, easy, though hopefully impactful ways to address unconscious bias and diversity and inclusion the next time you go to hire. So most of what we feel and decide is driven by unconscious processing. As humans, this is highly functional, but it can lead us astray. So today I want to focus on this and how it actually plays out in our work environment, specifically for when we go to hire. So if we can only consciously process 40 bits of information, this actually means that 99.9996% of our mental processing is ruled by our consciousness. So what does this actually mean? Unfortunately so. Everybody is, but don't feel bad. It's not one of the goals today. But what I want you to do is to understand that you have got it. Acknowledge it. We're human. We all have our own unconscious bias. So where do you start? In order to eliminate unconscious bias, as I said, we first need to recognize and take action to tackle it. We can do this by making a conscious effort to be more aware of our biases and how it can influence our own decision making. Now, the AIT by Harvard University is probably one of my favorite tools to uncover your hidden bias, and there's a lot of different types of tests that you can do that they've provided. So if you type IAT into Google, the link is on there, but I can share it with everybody after the session as well. So if you're interested in doing it, I highly recommend that one. Not to call Brendan out, but I got Brendan to do the test, and I also redid the test. It's been a while since I've done it. This particular test, that the results are up there, is around males, how we view male with career and how we view females with family. So Brendan scored slight automatic association with males with career and females with family. So did 19% of people that have taken this test. Don't worry, we're going to work on it, Brendan. It's okay, don't worry. I took the test, and unsurprising to me, I had little to no automatic association with male with career and female with family. Now, if we look at the first two on that graph, over 56% of those that took this test had a strong or moderate association with male with career and female with family. Shocking, not shocking. I was a little bit, taken aback by that. And on the other end of the scale, only 4% of individuals surveyed had a moderate to strong automatic association with male with family and female with career. So some interesting numbers there. So what can we do about it, and what are some of the unconscious biases and how it can impact diversity and inclusion when hiring? There is a lot of different types of unconscious bias. I'm very mindful of time today. Anybody that knows me knows I can talk a lot, so I will keep it as short as I can. So these are the main ones that I see in the hiring process. So we'll talk a few about them. As first impressions counts and gut feelings count a lot during interviews, but preventing unconscious bias, it's vital. It can lead to unfair, inaccurate judgments, overlooked talent, which is a big one we'll touch on, or at very worst at the end of the scale, discrimination. As a recruitment leader myself, I'm constantly reflecting on gut feeling and biases that I have, and I challenge my clients along the way. There's a few that have joined us today and they'll know exactly what I am talking about. Now first on the list is affinity bias, otherwise known as like me bias. Now this one's a hard one because ultimately we all like people like ourselves. The ideal candidate for most people is a person that they like, one that they can see themselves sharing a beer with or a wine with. But likability, it's not an indicator of how well someone would do in the job. Perhaps think about it this way. Has anybody got a friend that they love dearly, but there's absolutely no way that they would work with them? We all probably do. It's the same when it comes to hiring. When hiring teams meet someone that they like and who they know will get along well with the team, it's more often than not because that person shares similar interests, experiences and backgrounds, which is great, though it's not helping your teams grow and diversify. And while similarities should not automatically disqualify a candidate either, they should never be a deciding factor. Question for everybody here, and obviously a mental one. Has anyone ever here hired for culture fit when deciding to hire? I know I have in the past. You can raise your hand. Thanks, Vince. Truth is, to be honest, most people have. And if you have, most likely you've fallen prey to affinity bias. Ways to avoid it. Actively take notes of the similarities you share with candidates, so you can differentiate between attributes that may cloud your judgment and concrete skills and experience and unique qualities that will contribute to your team as a culture add rather than a culture fit. Now just that slight shift in language from culture fit to culture add can have a huge positive effect on diversity and inclusion. So that's a little tip with that one. Next one is confirmation bias. Now, by definition, confirmation bias is someone examining information as a way of validating their belief of something, rather than viewing information on its own merit. So in the hiring process, confirmation bias can play a real detrimental role at the very, very beginning of your processes. When you first read a CV, and you form an initial opinion on the candidate based on inconsequential attributes like their name, where they're from, what school they went to, and so on. There's many. This opinion can then follow you into the interview process and consequently steer questioning to confirm your initial opinion of the candidate. Whilst every interview will lead itself to unique conversationals based on individual backgrounds, I think it's really, really important to ask standardized skill-based questions that provide each candidate with a fair chance to stand out. Now, this will help prevent your teams from asking too many off-the-cuff questions that then leads to confirmation bias. It means you're also comparing apples to apples rather than apples to pears. The next one is conformity bias. Now, from an evolutionary perspective, fitting in and being part of a community was essential for survival. Those who were shunned from the tribe did not survive very long. Now, fast forward to today, that need for acceptance still there and gives rise to conformity bias. Another way to describe it is peer pressure is conformity bias. Question for everybody as well here. Think about the last time you hired and think about after you've done the interview. How did you and your team collaborate to discuss feedback? Was it on a call? Was it via Zoom, by email, in a meeting room where typically one person, normally the most senior person, starts by giving their thoughts and the next person follows, etc., etc. When your hiring team gets together to review candidates' applications, conformity bias can actually cause individuals to sway their opinion to match the opinion of the majority. And I hate to break it to you, the majority doesn't always have to be right. So ways to avoid this is before you get your hiring teams together to review a candidate, have them all write down their thoughts on a separate piece of paper or a separate email immediately after their interview. Then once it's all documented, have your team come together and then review what everybody wrote down so you can hear the impartial opinions, or send that email to one of the other hiring managers and get them to read that out, etc., etc. So you don't skew what you've written as well. It's also important to speak up and voice your opinions, and for hiring managers and teams that are hiring, to have an open space and to let everybody do that. Otherwise, people aren't going to speak up and voice their true opinion. The next one on the list is the halo effect. This particular one is the tendency people have to place another person on a pedestal after learning something super impressive about them. And this could be seeing a candidate that has worked at a highly regarded company or graduated from an elite school, or you did a bit of Google searching and you checked them out on LinkedIn and social media, and they're perhaps quite good looking. You know, we often believe if someone's good looking, they're more intelligent or competent than perhaps they are. Question for the group: have you ever been in an interview and after a really, really short period of time, you've thought to yourself, oh, this person is perfect. This is my guy, this is my girl, this is it. If you have, more often than not, it could be the halo effect. Now you might be thinking, what's wrong with being impressed? Isn't that the whole purpose of an interview? Yes and no. You know, as you know, we tend to give too much weight to the few characteristics and to the detriment of the others. You know, so a couple of ways that you can overcome this is when reviewing resumes, you're probably looking for something unique that makes that candidate stand out from the rest. When you do this, also consider candidates without that gleaming attribute. Look at their experience instead, their skills, and compare other candidates who may not have come from the same privilege or opportunity. It's one of the very reasons on my job ads, I don't ask for degrees. I don't ask for years of experience either, which is a topic that we'll touch on a little bit further. Having come from overseas myself, shocked anybody on the call, I'm not Australian. I'm originally from Northern Ireland, though I've been here 11 years, not losing the accent. I always thought it was fascinating when people would, candidates would like try to impress me by the university they went to or the school that they went to. I had no clue what any of these places were, and you know, it had no impact. It's like, that doesn't really impress me. But it's still really, really prevalent that people use that, and it creates a halo effect. Now the opposite is obviously, as the name suggests, is the horns effect. Now this can cause hiring managers to weed out candidates based on a trait that is adverse to the team's preference. This could be something as trivial as the candidate working for a company you personally disliked, or in the interview, the candidate displayed like a particular quirk or a mannerism that it was just a bit odd. You know, such traits then can alter your perception of the candidate entirely even though it's very small and might not be relevant at all. If you have a negative feeling about a candidate, take the time to find out where that gut feeling is coming from. Just like you like somebody, question where that gut feelings come from. Likewise, if something's not sitting right, question it. Probably will turn out to be something very superficial and insignificant. Another way to overcome it is diversity attracts diversity. Don't have just one person responsible for hiring. Make the hiring process as unbiased as possible by including as many different people with different backgrounds, different worldviews as you can. This way, a broad spectrum of people will have input on each candidate, and everybody will be looking for something totally different to the next person. It makes it more collaborative and also make sure that it's not based on one person's decision. Now, the next one is obviously a huge topic, and one I could talk about in a session all on its own, though I'm very mindful of time today, so I'll keep it as short as I can. One study I actually came across recently was from the National Academy of Sciences, and there's many, obviously, research on this particular topic, on gender bias, and what it showed was so both men and female hiring managers prefer male job candidates. So much so that a man is 1.5 times more likely to be hired than a female, regardless of who the hiring manager is. Which was quite shocking to me, actually. When hiring managers believe that a female has had children because of things on their resume like parent-teacher association or maternity leave, they are 79% less likely to get hired. And if they do get hired, they offer $11,000 less in salary. I didn't know the stats around it, but it's something I tell all parents to take off their resume, because again, it creates unconsciously or consciously a bias, and that research was done by McKinley for anybody that's interested in doing it. Ways to avoid gender bias. The best and the easiest one that you can do is blind screening of applicants. Get the recruitment firms that you use or your internal recruitment team to send your resumes with no names on it, and take off interests that would assume a certain gender as well. But also you could set your own diversity goals to ensure your company holds itself accountable within your own team. So that's a really good one. Like a real life study, not scientific of course, is a couple of years ago, wonderful hiring manager of mine, we were building a transformational team, and the first 4 candidates that got through the interview, they ended up getting hired, were all male, and we had great backgrounds, different sectors, different ethnicities, different countries. In terms of diversity of thought and people, it was fantastic. But they were all males, which got me thinking. I'm like, we might need to do something about this. And we had a couple more people we needed to recruit for this project team. So I reflected on my own hiring processes, and I'm like, I'm always advocating for talent, whether it's male, female, why, what is it? How can I do it better? And one of the things that I found was when I write an executive summary, and anybody that has worked with me will know that I bring to life a candidate, tell all the great stuff about this candidate and their personality and how they're going to add value to your business. It's pretty much the only thing my clients read. But on how I wrote about females was using very feminine words. And with males, I was using more masculine. And because, regardless of who reads it, we're more swayed towards the masculine qualities for whatever reason, that's partially one of the reasons why maybe they were getting through. So what I did, there's a couple of different tools out there, and again, I can send links to anybody that is particularly interested. One is a gender decoder, and the other one is a company called Textio, Textio, and that one will cost you, but it helps you look at inclusive language. So we did that. I took the names off, And I'm thankful to say that the next 3 people were all females. So as I say, not scientific, but I don't know, proof's in the pudding a little bit there. And another just on that, when it comes to gender, writing inclusive job ads and job descriptions are super, super important as well. Again, use those tools. I did my own little scientific research. So Brendan has a role on for a customer success manager at the minute. So I popped his in, and well done, Brendan. Your advert was gender neutral. So you used a good portion of masculine and feminine wording, subtly coded, and it's probably unlikely to put off men or women from applying. So well done. I did the same, and mine was feminine coded. Now the research suggests this will only have a very, very slight effect on appealing to the job to men, and also will encourage women. Now we have a lovely friend on who works in the recruitment space. I won't name names. I took the liberty of checking one of your job ads for a UX designer role, and it's masculine coded. So whilst it won't put off men, you're very much at risk of putting women off based on how you've written your job ad. More than happy to work with you afterwards if you want. You know who you are. And the next on the list is name bias. Name bias, as its name suggests, is a tendency to judge and prefer people with a certain type of name. Typically, Anglo origin. Yeah, no shock there. Shockingly though, minority applicants have to send on average 60% more job applications to get a positive response compared to their white counterparts that have an Anglo origin name. So still a lot to do in shifting the dial there. One quick little real life story was a wonderful BA who I worked with a couple of years ago, who'd relocated from Africa. And I remember reading the CV, and the top of the CV, it had postman. And that's actually the first thing I read on his resume. It was postman. Oh, okay. And, got my attention and read through the rest of his resume. And I was like, this guy's been in the country for a year. He's got phenomenal business analyst experience. Why is he working as a postman? So I called him, obviously, and we had a great discussion, and he had never heard back from anybody. Still, and he months and months and months went by, and he's like, I have a family, like I needed to do something. And my heart sank, but it also had so much respect for him as well, that he, took the role he took. And long story short, he was just as fabulous as I was hoping he was going to be. And one of my more open-minded clients, they know that I'm going to send them talent, interviewed him. He got the job straight away. I think actually she offered him the job in the interview. It was a contract role, 6 months, a BA role with one of the big banks here in Melbourne. And within 6 months, he was promoted to senior business analyst. He was made perm. 2 years on, he's still there. And he's got a team, and he's recruiting himself now. And that's just, otherwise he would never have got that chance, and it's stuff like that that really makes me enjoy what I do as well. So yeah, next time you're looking at names, maybe don't bother. It's not important. You might be missing out on great talent. I came across this quote by the CEO of Google, which I think just sort of sums up everything. A diverse mix of voices leads to better discussions, better decisions, and outcomes from everybody. Now, if all that I've said hasn't really swayed you in terms of reevaluating how you go about looking at talent, here's just some quick benefits of actually reducing bias within your hiring. A wider talent pool. Glassdoor did a survey. 2/3 of candidates prefer to work amongst a diverse workforce. So the more diverse your employees, the more diverse candidates you will attract, ultimately the wider talent pool. Win-win. New perspectives. When you hire people from diverse backgrounds, nationalities, cultures, you're bringing a fresh array of perspectives. companies that did this seen a 60% improvement in decision-making ability. And when you're driving change and transformation in businesses, improved decision-making is pretty important. The next one on there is more innovation. Companies who had diverse leaders were more innovative, point blank. Better employee performance as well. When you create work environments where employees see representation and variety of cultures, backgrounds, ways of thinking, they're more likely to feel comfortable themselves. This leads to happier, more productive employees, better retention of staff as well. You know, staff retention and losing staff is so costly to businesses, and this is a, you know, inverted commas, an easy way to look at that. And if that's still not enough for those people that are a little bit more money focused, increase profits. Diversity increases your bottom line. And BCG did a wonderful study, actually it was 2 years ago, where they looked at 1,700 different companies across 8 countries, variety of industries, company size, and they found that increasing diversity had a direct effect on the bottom line because of the innovation that those companies were able to tap into, and 19% higher revenue because of that innovation. So if you're banging on the drum yourself and you need some facts and figures and how it's going to improve businesses' cash flow, then that's definitely a good one. So where to from here? As we've discussed, first impressions, gut feelings, they count for so much during interviews and reviewing CVs. And if I leave you anything today, it's to challenge those feelings the next time you go to hire. Look beyond the company somebody's worked at, the sector that they've worked in, or university they've been to. Educate yourselves and your teams around unconscious bias, diversity and inclusion. And look, if you're still a little lost, reach out to me. Tell me what your current processes are. I'm more than happy to give you some more hints and tips that you can add in, because ultimately be part of the solution, not the problem. And that's me, guys. Thanks.